It's been a heck of a journey over the last 6 to 7 years, and it wasn't always thus that cricket was the one, or Irish cricket was the one that was in the, I suppose, the next cab off the rank. And if you wind the clock back 6 to 7 years, it was probably 2 or 3 countries who were in fact ahead of Ireland. So I guess, what did we do in that intervening 6 to 7 years? What steps have we taken to put ourselves in the prime position to move forward? To take the first, our governance has moved forward in terms of being an unincorporated entity 6 to 7 years ago. We're now an incorporated business, and that is a key word. We no longer think of ourselves as just a sport bumping along in an amateur fashion, but we regard ourselves now as a business. We need to operate and organise ourselves as a business. And we do that in terms of how we make decisions, our governance. We do that in terms of how we drive forward our participation, which has more than trebled in that period. Where did our journey, our modern journey, start? It was probably the 2007 World Cup. Ireland playing Pakistan at Sabina Park, Jamaica, March the 17th, 2007, beating former World Cup champions Pakistan, the Blarney Army, 3,000 of them doing congas around the stadium wearing the big leprechaun hats. Huge day for Irish cricket, really drove forward our sport. As a result of that victory, what did we get? We got profile. As a result of the profile, we had some interest. As a result of the interest, we had investment and revenue. As a result of that revenue, we could invest back into the top level of the sport.
Well, 2003, World Cup winner. How was that performance culture created?
It was quite an interesting first meeting on the 1st of September 1997 when Clive Woodward took over and he pulled back a flip chart and it just said we're going to win the World Cup. And there are a few doubting Thomases in there, cynics, and thinking, well, we can't beat Wales or Ireland and occasionally Scotland, so how on earth could we possibly hope to beat the likes of Australia, New Zealand and South Africa, who tended to set the benchmark at international level? And it was broken down into manageable objectives, and that was the key for us, to understand that this seemingly impossible goal could be broken down into manageable objectives that we could understand and were tangible and were within our grasp, and we could have our own leadership. And examples of those would be to simply break the game down in rugby, the game of rugby down into 7 key components: attack, defence, scrums, line-outs, restarts, counter-attack, and the mindset game. And we basically came to a conclusion in this world of black and white and spreadsheets that if we could hit 90%, of our targets in those 7 key component areas, then no matter what came out of the opposition changing room, then we would feel totally confident about emerging victorious at the end of the game.
It was an attitude, mindset. We expected that playing group. We expected when we got into big games, a bit what he was saying. That attitude of we ticked off. We probably didn't have 7. We probably had 3 particular key ones for us, which we knew. And you had a certain one with, in terms of defence. We worked pretty hard on what we called a completion rate, which was like when we attacked, we had it off, didn't matter off scrum, line out, set piece, broken field. If we were above, the numbers weren't 90%, we felt if we were above 70% on that, we kept our defence around 90%, and we kept our discipline. We kept anything below, say, 5 in terms of ruck maul penalties. So our discipline was very good, so we weren't giving away more than, say, 12, 15 points. We felt we'd be able to score more points than the opposition, and we felt totally comfortable in the fact that we could defend. So that's what winning teams have. They have that attitude, they have that understanding, they have that buy-in. There's a real consistency of thought of how you want to play, and everyone buys into it. And that attitude, I think, of self-improvement is very, very important. That probably answers your question why we were able to sustain it. We had some dips in the road, but we always had our eyes on where we wanted to be, and that's very, very important.
In many ways, there's an inherent confidence in both England and Australia, and had been for an awful long time. We didn't really have that in the mid-90s, and our reaction, I think, to becoming professional, whereas in Australia and a lot of the guys in England at the time and in New Zealand were very professional in attitude. To some degree there was professional in cash. We were lacking in both of those entirely in that period of time. It was the idea of seeing other teams and other sports and how they performed. And at that period of time for us in Ireland, the lines became incredibly important, because in '97 and in 2001, we went and we saw and got an opportunity to see the performance-related targets that individual players were doing it, groups of players were doing it from other countries. And it absolutely led an impetus for us to drive our own standard as players. And one of the big elements for us in performance culture now in our game, and Ian McGeechan said it just before the summer tour, was just because things were amateur or traditional doesn't mean that they were wrong. And it becomes incredibly important for a young professional game like rugby to absolutely set the bar as high as you can, to look to achieve, to set the dreams, to hold the trophy, to do all those sort of things, but to still keep the things that brought the game to this point in the first place. And it is the Corinthian spirit, and it is the idea of friendship that is part and parcel of it. You don't need to lose those. You don't need to lose that respect, or how you deal with a referee, or how you deal with kids, and how everybody, whether they've played thirds rugby or international rugby, still have a common bond. Those things are absolutely integral to our sport going forward. And it is in this particular period of time, when you are striving to get your performance culture to the absolute maximum, that becomes so important not to lose that.
The wallet doesn't make you professional, and we had a problem by then. We were having 80% of the team was playing in a professional environment here in Europe, so we knew what things we should be doing to achieve great things. We knew what was the road, and we had to put that into our administrators. We went back, and so without money, we had to just do it and do it right. And that's where the state of mind comes in. You can do things without having a lot of things. We created the professional set of mind without any money. We took what Keith said about the pride issue that is very important. We just played every single game as it was the last. And it didn't matter if we had IP rights or, well, we didn't, but if we were getting a bonus or something, because we didn't. It was about just being there and being professional in every single aspect of the game, training, eating, not going out or whatever you have to do, as we knew it on our professional setups that we were here in Europe. We just knew what had to be done. And again, all these things about the money and the structures are very important, yes, to just get better, but you can still create your own winning habits, having that on a side, and the most important thing is to just play, enjoy yourself, and then everything else will come.
Well, from what I've got from this session, you've got to have a vision, you've got a plan, you've got to have goals with metrics, simple goals with metrics, you've got to have measurable behaviours which people buy into, and then you've got to take risks and have enjoyment and learn from your failures. Okay, thank you very much.